Thank you. Well, I could start my presentation to say, and now for something completely different, because in fact it's maybe not so different. In the end, let's see. Well, the thing, this is also a work in progress. Well, it's part of the research for my dissertation, in fact. I chosen to make a study of some documents that I found when I was doing my research. And I was eager to analyze them, but it doesn't fit very well with the time and the number of pages that dissertations must have now. So, well, this was a very nice occasion to return to these documents. Well, I will speak about the Martyrs of the Inquisition. Obviously, I'm speaking of this concept in a very narrow way, so I will speak about Portugal and new Christians of Jewish origin. Obviously, the Martyrs of the Inquisition may apply as a category that may be applied to other contexts and other situations. But this is my point what is happening. The theme of the so-called Martyrs of the Inquisition is not absolutely a new one. In the last years, scholars have studied the existence of these figures, but especially as far as the new Christians were concerned, the subject was studied regarding the 17th century Sephardic, in the context of the Sephardic diaspora, and especially about literary production, about the subject made in places like Venice and Amsterdam especially. But my analysis go back in time, so the beginnings of the 16th century, because I am trying to make some genealogy of the phenomenon and try to find the foundation moment to the creation of this category. The first years of the 16th century constitute a great and a complex occasion of significant trends of messianic expectations that rose up inside the Portuguese new Christian community. I was given to Susana before, and in fact, the new Christian community, if we can use this term, is a very good example of an emotional one for so many reasons. We would not have time to explain here, but it is the perspective that I'm working on in my research. After the general conversion of 1497, and especially after some major events and fragrant ones like a massacre in Lisbon in 1506, where more than 2,000 new Christians were killed in Lisbon, but most particularly during and immediately after the process of establishment of the Portuguese Inquisition, the messianic expectations and similar phenomena were deeply established inside the new Christian group. This history of the new Christians, after the persecutions and mass conversions, is within itself a story of expectations, suffering, and disappointment. So it fits very well in the general point of this workshop. The emergence of the figure of the martyrs was, in fact, in my point of view, also a consequence of this whole ambience, a direct consequence of the social violence in Iberia during the 15th and 16th centuries, and represents, and maybe represents, one another key elements that we must have in mind when tracing and shaping the so-called new Christian identity, a subject that has been studied very recently with another point of view, a more complex one. Another one to add to the common and very well-known characteristics of the new Christian identity, such as the ambivalence, fluidity, secrecy, the sea of conflict, almas en litigio, the expression very well known to the scholars in this subject. So the New Christians, Martyrs, or Martyrs of the Inquisition, expression that is used recently in a book by Miriam Bodian, precisely called Dying in the Law of Moses, Printer Jewish Martyrdom in the Agrarian World. I go back to the book after. In this book, dedicated to the study of cases precisely of the 17th century, but the genealogy of this phenomenon, so as a new Christian phenomenon, must be studied in both Jewish and Christian worlds, so in the convergence of this hybridity that marked the new Christian world in the Iberian Peninsula. I will follow three lines of analysis in this presentation. First of all, a very quick, because of time but necessary introduction to the ambience of the Messianic phenomena during the first decades of the 16th century. I will use to express this complex moment a very well-known episode, the voyage of David Coveney to Portugal in 1525. Then I will explain later. And then, because this episode and the use of a particular source can show us, like an X-ray, the problematic situation, emotional situation also of this community in that particular time. Then, guided by some case studies, inquisitorial ones, so I am using mostly inquisitorial sources with all the problems that this kind of sources represent, of course, and I'm aware of it. Guided by these case studies, I will show a phenomenon of some sort of cult of martyrs made by the new Christian group in Portugal. We will discuss these inquisitorial documents and the response of the Inquisition to this problem, this concrete problem. The last line of analysis. Was this a consensual phenomenon inside the group? There was critics, fears to this martyrs, to this cult of the martyrdom, and how do we arrive to a crystallization, a literary crystallization of the phenomenon in the 17th century? So, as I was saying, historiographical studies have been made on the subject. Cecil Broad, Ishak Baer, Ayn Weinert, and William Bowden, as I quote, have studied this category. But the point of view of these authors was always, almost all the time, the point of arrival, the 17th century, and an analysis of the trials, in historical trials, made against those who were burned alive, burned by the Inquisition. So the point is, all the Christians burned alive were possible martyrs of the Inquisition. But, as I was saying, we must go to the beginning of the phenomenon. So, following some studies of David Ruderman, Isaiah Tishby, they show us the complexity of the messianic Marianism, let's say that this way. Full of fractured moments, disillusions, expectations, because this community, after the conversion, was clearly trying to find leadership, a leader figure. And in this search for this guidance, we can find in the inquisitorial documentation, for instance, and this is only some examples, a huge amount of reflections made by testimonies, or also confessions, where these new Christians show their attitudes of admiration to figures like Luther, for instance, the Ottoman Sultan, or the King of England. So these old figures that clearly define the Catholic Church in the south of the great enemy of Christianity. When this mysterious figure like David Rubeni, that I think, despite all the studies, we don't quite catch the meaning of this character. Rubeni arrived in Europe around the 20s of the 16th century, 22, and he traveled to Portugal in 25. He presented himself as a brother of the king of the tribe of Reuben, an ambassador that was seeking to allies, to congregate European leaders like the Pope or the King of Portugal to a great offensive against the great enemy, the Turk. Well, in fact, it was received with great enthusiasm in Italy, well, in all Italian cities, also by the Pope. And when he arrived in Portugal, and so of course we have this document, this important document, his diary. Well, it's very problematic. I have no time to discuss here. The document itself has a story very, very interesting, because we don't have the original. The original was found and was lost, and so some experts in linguistics have studied it, but we know that the document is more or less contemporary. We don't know if it's in fact of David Rubeni, of course. We have some certainty that the document is more or less from the time because of linguistic reasons. And but we can use it as a reflection of the idea that someone that wrote the text had of the Portuguese Christian community had. I'm going to read to you two parts, small parts of the document. One is when he was in Lisbon, he was received by the king. When he arrived in Portugal, the new Christians all came to him, all made him a very welcome reception. And so when he arrived in this audience with the king of Portugal, the king said to him, I will quote, "I am glad that thou hast come to help me fight against the Muslims. But I hear that you hast also come to restore the Martyrs to the Jewish religion. And the Martyrs pray with thee and read thy books day and night, and thou hast made for them a synagogue." I was angry, says Rubeni, or this character, with him, and say to him, "I am come from the east to the west, only to exalt thy kingdom and to help thee. I have not come for the sake of the Martyrs, and all that the slanderers have told thee about me is falsehood and not at all true." After staying in Lisbon, Rubeni made voyage to the country, throughout Portugal. So he went, for instance, to Coimbra, a city in the center of the country. And he said, "The city is very great, and all the people came to see me, Christians and Martyrs, and they went to the house of a Martyr and prepared for me a fine big room with a bed and a table and chair." Then he continued his journey to the south of Portugal, in Tavira, in Alberto. On Monday, All the people of the city came to see me, and the Moranos were very grieved and wept when we left, because he was traveling with their committee. We left the city, went to Beja, and entered the house of a Morano, and they prepared for us beds and table and everything. And at night, many Moranos came to me, fearful and weeping, and I said to them, this is a supposed quotation, what is? Trust in the Lord forevermore, for you shall have the joy of seeing the rebuilding of Jerusalem. Be not afraid. I have not come before the king this time to take you away and bring you to Jerusalem, for we have still great wars before you will come to Jerusalem. But when our country shall be in our hands, and I offer sacrifice, we will come to you to bring you to a settled land, etc. The voyage ends badly because the secretary of the king circumcised himself in order to convert to Judaism, to follow Benveniste to Europe. And the consequence immediately was that Don Juan III, the King of Portugal, made an inquiry about the customs, the religious customs of the Christians. The report was made by a secretary, a man of trust, to all the neighborhoods, and the people went to the priests and asked about the religious practice of this population. It was very alarming. So, well, a few years later, the Inquisition was established in Portugal. So, this was obviously a foundation moment, 1536, the foundation of the Inquisition. We must say that the Inquisition, this institution entered the city, and I'm thinking of Lisbon because it's the case study that I know the most, that is valid to other places, and I will show some examples that are not from Lisbon. And a very important impact in the geography of the city. And one of the most fractured and brutal examples of this impact was the Auto-da-Fé ceremony, of course. The first one is around 1540, 1541. We have scattered news about these two first ceremonies. But we have here, and I will show the first quotation, that is in Portuguese, but I will comment to you. We have in the first half, this is a quotation of the inquisitorial cry against the new Christian of Trás-os-Montes in the north of Portugal. It is a report made by an important theologian of this time, Pedro Magallanes. And the team, it was called to emit an opinion about the general pardon that was considered in Christians in 1537, just after the establishment of Inquisition. The general pardon consists in saying that all crimes against the faith that people made before that pardon, that moment, were pardoned, precisely. The document is very interesting, but this is the last part of the quotation, the text, and this is very interesting for the subject. What Magallanes says is that those who are to die, and die not confessing, so do not return to the faith, or to the Christian faith, and he said at the very end that those who died in error, for their errors, are considered by the others, the others and the Christians, to say, like martyrs, and that they go to the place where the Auto-da-Fé was made, scattering the ashes of the martyrs, as they were martyrs. But when I found this document, I was very intrigued. So what's happening here? Because this is a complicated situation, because he is saying that they go into the fires and trying to gather some of the ashes of those who were burned. So I made further research and I found two cases, and this is what I'm going to show you right now. Two examples of 10 years before this, so from 1543, the two, one from Lisbon and other from other place. The first one is from the trial of Duarte Gomes, known as Salomon Usque, because he did the Inquisition, went to Ferrara and other cities of Italy. And in October of 1543, he was not really arrested because he was already in Antwerp, but his brother was nominated as his procurator, so appeared to testify in Inquisition. The subject were because he had some books, some that are forbidden, so this is not. This was what is concerned the Inquisition. But at some point, we can see that he had a slave called Elena, and the slave testified in the Inquisition. And what she recalled, what she testified, was very disturbing. She said that in 43 in October was out of fame in Lisbon, here, and the wife of Duarte Gomes asked her to go to the Ribeira, so near the river, to draw out some water, dirty water that they had in the house. And when she was going to do this thing, Duarte Gomes asked her that in the way, because the autos de fe were celebrated near the river, asked her to go and collect some of the ashes and bring to the house. According to her testimony, she went, she saw some men that were in the neighborhood and asked them, and this, because what is underlined is the ashes of those who were burned. And then she asked the man if it was a sin to go and do this action. And in fact, the man said yes. So the story goes like she returned to her home. She said to her master, well, I didn't do it because some people told me it was a sin. The master arrested her and locked her in a dark room. She managed to escape and she goes to the Inquisitors. I must say that the Inquisition paid little attention to this fact. But I think that the question is, Duarte Gomes was not in Portugal anymore, and also they were concerned with other matters linked to the books I told you before. But it was not only this. In the same year, in a small tribe, because the Inquisition was established in Portugal, was this small tribunals in other cities, like this Tomar, north of Lisbon. And in this case, it is very similar, more or less. It was a case of a trial against Diogo Pires. It was a man from the north of Portugal, and supposedly he was passing by Tomar, this village, just after the auto fame. And he went to the fireplace, to the fire, the place where the auto fame was celebrated. And in this particular case, there was a new Christian that was burned alive. So he go there and he collected the bone and put it on the previous pocket. In the end of the trial, we have the sentence, more or less, after some examination of the trial of the Tomás, of the convent of Tomás. And he said that, well, your speech, after being informed that there was this woman who was burned alive for Judaism, he decided to go to the fire, to the place where the fire was, and collect his bone. And that is very suspicious because he also is a new Christian, and so maybe he is doing the same error, being blind as a Jew. And this is very interesting because it's interesting the concepts that the institutors use. It says that maybe he was trying to get the bone as a relic of a saint. Well, we don't have more, for the period, more indications of other events. We know that after the 52, 53, the inquisitors had more control with the ceremonies of the Auschwitz, because it's a very dramatic moment, so they were very, they tried to control it more. But I managed to find other elements from later periods, such as not with the bones or ashes, but with Sanbenitos, the penitential abbot, who had the face of the condemned. And here I found two situations. One, for instance, they go and pray in the principal church of the city where the Sanbenitos were exposed, and so they made a prayer in memory of the Martyrs, again, the same expression. Another, more problematic, they managed to take the Sanbenitos of the church and bury the Sanbenitos in some distant place, some not known place outside of the cities or villages. And also other attitude was, and this not made by new Christians, people go and steal parts of the bodies, in fact, to use it as amulets. This was common. So, the Inquisition, obviously this was a problem with the Inquisition, and they were aware, and it will be interesting to analyze, and I'm trying, it's also a work in progress in a way, to try to analyze the justification of these actions, because there are many factors. One, obviously, they use in the testimonies expressions like the injustice of the Inquisition, the innocents that were killed by the Inquisition, etc. So I think that part of these actions are in fact related with some sort of what we can call, in another context, with the cult of martyrs. In fact, I think so. Others, and I must underline that in these cases I presented, we are very, very near the moment of the general conversion. So most of these people were living as Jews before some part of their life. So in some cases, I think they were trying to buried some, what we may call some part of the bodies of these victims. Other cases, it will be interesting to analyze, to have a more complete vision of the problem. But at the end, we arrive at, as I said in the beginning, we don't have echoes of this phenomena, for instance, in texts produced in Amsterdam or other places. What we have in the 17th century, so the studies like those of Miriam Bodin or other authors, they stretch the importance of the martyrdom was related to those who were burned by the Inquisition period. So we don't have these other moments or other phenomena. And what we have is a massive production, literary production of texts. I will say especially in Amsterdam, yes, because it was the major part of the text I read was produced in Amsterdam, that were made to celebrate some figures. So we have like 5 or 7 martyrs that were very well known. I brought to you to conclude an example is called CEHR-UCP. He died, the legend is that he died in Lisbon, in the Alto de Fé, near the river, reciting the Shema Israel, so when he was being burned. So in Amsterdam, in 1647, in Amsterdam they produced a lot of texts regarding this personage, this person. And we have, for instance, elogiam vários curiosos e versos dedicaram ao martírio de CEHR-UCP, que em Lisboa foi queimado vivo por santificação del nome del Senhor Deus. And I brought to you a poem of Alberto, a member of the Sephardic diaspora in Amsterdam, where he crystallized the vision of the martyr of the Inquisition in the 17th century. So as you can see in the third last lines, we have, you honored all Israel honored of you honored God for whom you alive were burned. This image of the martyr. And to conclude, the last lines, I will say that in a dialogue with the title of the workshop, we can say that in a certain way, the Inquisition, in fact, gave birth to new martyrs. But these martyrs were not a very welcome category for the Catholic world.